Hey there, and welcome to another segment here of Coffee Talk. Grab a cup of coffee because we have one of the leading technical consultant experts in the industry, the infamous Randy Johnston with K2 Enterprises. For those who don't know, Randy is Accounting Today's top 100 most influential people. He's a top 25 thought leader of the accounting industry, inducted into the CPA Practice Advisor Accounting Hall of Fame in 2011, and has over 40 years of management and technical consulting experience. Randy, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Pleased to do so, Chris. It's such a pleasure to spend time with you and your listeners.
And especially you have a lot of firms out there that are still just trying to adopt multi-factor authentication. Isn't that enough if they're authenticating and then their multi-factor authentication, let's say through a third-party app like Duo, or is it not enough?
Well, I think it might have been enough in 2015. I'm not sure it's enough anymore. And again, the bad actors are getting smarter about getting into these systems. And, in 2015, when MFA probably was enough, we had a lot more discussions about, firewalls and antivirus and spam control and stuff like that, because we were basically in this thinking of the castle and moat type of approach. We're going to put up a castle and pull up the drawbridge and you can't get to us because of the moat. I don't think that's the way security works today. I think, you do have to use the trust but verify, and it's almost continuous verification. And that's a trick that's going to get more important as we go, because bad actors are going to get into your systems. That's just the way it's going to work. But we just want to restrict the damage they can do if they get inside the systems. So MFA was a great start in my mind. But there's, so many cybersecurity policies, the insurance thing here, that are requiring at least 2 authentications a day. And, a lot of the tax applications wanting, authentication every 30 minutes. It's just like every time we're turning around, we're having to bloody authenticate again. Now, it'll get a little better with passwordless and FIDO tokens and some other pieces there. But, I think first, it's good, but it's become almost too inconvenient along the way. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, there's also other techniques that might even be better.
Sounds like building a robust security plan. It's not just protecting the perimeter of your network, but you have to protect multiple layers within your network, assuming that the attacker or somebody got in even inside your network. You have to protect at every level you can. And with all the multiple logon prompts, and this is where maybe even single sign-on or adoption of single sign is even a stronger argument. So an employee isn't prompted for their password many times throughout the day. Speaking of security, though, what's the big hot next trend you think is right around the corner?
Well, on that point, I think it's zero trust. But, you're in the thick of it, the best I can tell, with some of the AI-powered, intrusion detection pieces. But I think zero trust is the hot thing because it'll make it easier for users. And it should provide new levels of protection along the way. Now, I think zero trust has a probability of eliminating that castle and moat approach that I mentioned earlier. And it really becomes continuous verification. And, if you think about the load that you see inside your infrastructure, what it takes to do that, it's not a lot of overhead for the additional level of protection. So to me, that may be the big deal. I think it is trust, but verify on almost a regular basis.
And when people say zero trust, for those that may have not heard about what zero trust is, can you explain it into us human terms of what zero trust means?
Well, that's a fair question. So, for me, zero trust has multiple components. And among those, it is controlling and segmenting network traffic. So that's something that IT technical teams do. But notice the segmentation actually occurs not only at the hardware level, but at the software level. So that's one. Number two, it involves verifying data ingress and egress. So it's actually filters against the data itself. In the older days, we often implemented data loss protection as an early example of that type of data ingress and egress type of situations. And frankly, with the current IRS 5293 restrictions, you as a firm almost have to have this type of protection in place to be GLB compliant and to comply with, all of the corresponding pieces around that. Now, beyond that, there's identity involved as well. So one thing that's not worked out very clearly in my mind is a universal identity, with single sign-on, Chris, we were talking about that earlier. There's techniques that are used today, OAuth being a good example there, but there's new ones that are coming in the zero trust. Well, I actually have a diagram that I often will explain that with, but this explanation, by the way, is morphing pretty quickly. And one thing I'll just, caution our listeners on, the zero trust tools out there are often complex to set up. Mm-hmm. They're becoming easier, but the vendors in my mind are charging more than most smaller firms could afford. Many of the tools, by the way, I'm seeing $100 per user per month type of fees. Well, I don't know how many of you want to throw an extra $100 at some other vendor just for this type of protection, but the prices have been dropping and the complexity of setup is also fading. It's getting easier. And so as that continues to happen, I think we'll see some of that. Now, we'll pick on a big vendor like Microsoft who's trying to do some of this. Some of that will happen at the Microsoft 365 level, but there's so many other tools that we use. I don't think Microsoft will have a comprehensive enough solution for us to solve it that way. So, Chris, I'm sure you and your team have looked at a lot of these different tools, and I don't know how many of them you've tried, but I got to tell you, the ones that I've tried, I'm very impressed. I just don't like the way the network operations centers, SOC centers work on them, and I don't like the price. I like the way the tools work, but oh man.
Maybe over time, these prices will come down and it'll be a little bit more available for firms in a less costly budget.
Yeah, and I'm very, very hopeful of that. And I'm pretty sure that will happen. But, it's new. And, you can make a lot of money by selling fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I think a number of these firms are trying to do that right now.